I never expected to find love in a small town after my life unraveled. Until I met her. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a Monday. Rain poured down thick, turning the streets into rivers. I stood at the window, heart heavy, tears streaming down my cheeks. Each drop outside matched the storm inside me. My life had collapsed in a mere matter of days. Career gone, friends vanished, family distant. I felt like a ghost in my own skin that I had moved to this town. A tiny speck on the map, hoping for a fresh start. Instead, it felt like I was living in a cold, deserted film. Silence echoed everywhere like a haunting reminder of what I'd lost. I wandered through the crooked streets, the sidewalks cracked, mirroring my fractured heart. Every shadow felt alive. Every gust of wind whispered secrets I couldn't grasp. But then I saw her. In the small cafe on the corner, light flooded in, illuminating her like an angel in the gloom. Her laughter was bright, like music piercing through my fog. I couldn't look away. She had wild curls cascading down her shoulders, a hint of chaos that drew me in. The world faded. I knew nothing about her. Just a name scribbled on a napkin as hope flickered in my chest. What was it about her that made my heartbeat race? Could she see the darkness that clung to me? My hands trembled as I crumpled the napkin, a spark igniting in what felt like a withered soul. As days turned into weeks, she became my new obsession. I learned her routine. I watched her charm the locals. Each smile was a lifeline, pulling me from the wreckage of my past. I craved her light, even though the shadows loomed large, whispering warnings. But then something strange happened. I overheard snippets of hushed conversations as I sipped coffee. "Did you hear?" Someone said with a trembling voice. "They say she is not who she seems." My heart pounded. What did they mean? The air thickened around me, a chapter of mystery unfolding. I could feel the weight of their words wrap around me, squeezing tight. Fear clawed at my throat. What if my salvation was a mirage? What if the deeper I fell, the more it would hurt? Her gaze suddenly caught mine from across the room. A flicker of recognition, but was it fear I saw in her eyes? That knot in my gut twisted tighter. A heartbeat echoed in my ears. I took a step forward, but uncertainty halted me. What truth did she hide? What would happen if I uncovered it? I was standing at the edge of a haunting revelation. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I lingered in the doorway of the cafe, the comforting chatter and clinking of cups fading into a muffled backdrop behind me. The world outside filled with the sound of rain drumming against pavement, a rhythm echoing the turmoil twisting inside me. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that hung over me like a thick fog, suffocating and oppressive. Her laughter danced through the air again, a melodic sound that clashed with the uncertainty gnawing at my spirit. I leaned against the wall, unsure if I was drawn to her light or terrified of the shadows that might follow. What truth lay beneath her smile, veiled as if she wore a mask crafted for the world? I felt a desperate yearning to bridge the gap between us, but fear loomed large, anchoring me in place. While I stood there, a moment of kindness shattered my internal chaos. An elderly woman pushing a cart full of baked goods caught my eye and smiled. Her face, crinkled by years of laughter and perhaps sorrow, radiated warmth. "You look like you could use a sweet treat," she said gently, offering me a small cookie. I smiled, accepting the gesture, feeling for a moment the comfort of human connection tugging at my heart. "Thank you," I whispered, surprised at how much that small interaction brightened my outlook. I took a bite and savored the unexpected sweetness, a fleeting reminder that not everything was tainted by darkness. It helped shake off a little of the gloom, however briefly. But that didn't last long. As I leaned once more into the shadows of my own spiraling thoughts, as I watched her from a distance, my heart ached with the realization that I was on the verge of building something precious. But the fear was relentless, sending jolts of uncertainty through me. Stepping forward was no longer just about the mystery of who she might be, but also a reckoning with my own shattered image. Could I really embrace something so fragile, so vulnerable, knowing the tremors of my past could shatter it all? I hesitated. The soft sound of her voice carried through the cafe, an intimate harmony exchanged with another patron. Suddenly I felt exposed, as if the fragile barrier around my heart could crumble at any moment. My gut twisted again. It wasn't just about her, maybe I was the one hiding, constructing walls around my aching heart rather than daring to feel. The conversations I'd overheard earlier resurfaced, unraveling like threads when I tried to gather them. What if her hidden truth was something dark? Something that could twist the fragile shape of hope I had begun to carve. Doubt gnawed at me relentlessly. Frustration surged, tearing at my composure. I swung on my heel to head for the exit, feeling the urge to escape from the whirlwind of emotions spiraling within. But as I reached for the door, it swung open, revealing a figure I hadn't expected to see. It was Peter, the local mechanic, whose rough exterior often concealed a surprising kindness. "Hey there," he said, his voice steady as he leaned against the doorframe, a knowing look in his eyes. "You've been watching her for a while now, haven't you?" Caught off guard, I felt my cheeks flush, vulnerability painted on my expression as I fumbled for words. My voice trailed off. Did he really see me? Did he know about the storm brewing deep inside? "Love is a tricky thing," he said, crossing his arms, "but sometimes you find out more than you bargain for." He paused, his brow furrowing. "There are things about her, things you might want to know." My heart raced, the weight of his words hitting me squarely in the chest. "What do you mean?" I asked, desperate to uncover whatever secrets lurked in the shadows. Peter hesitated, and I could see a flicker of empathy in his eyes. "Just gather your courage before you jump in. It isn't all sunshine and roses, my friend. People wear masks and sometimes they hide painful truths." Just as he finished, the door swung again, and she entered the cafe, eyes bright, moments before locking onto mine. My breath caught in my throat. Was it awareness in her gaze? Or something more complicated? The air crackled between us. Everything around us blurred into oblivion. Just at that moment, two townsfolk whispered harshly from a nearby table, their words like needles. "She doesn't belong here, you don't know her past." At that moment I couldn't tell if I had found the light or wandered deeper into darkness. I was caught in this web, uncertainty clawing at the edges of my resolve. Did I dare move closer, facing whatever lay ahead? Or would I retreat, terrified of what lay beneath her angelic exterior? I was poised on the edge, ready to fall, teetering between hope and despair as I realized I had unintentionally stepped into the eye of the storm. Amidst the swirling winds of fate, the haunting shadows beckoned, and I knew that the truth, whatever it may be, waited just beyond reach. And I was left with one haunting question. Would I dare to uncover it, knowing it could change everything? The cafe filled with familiar scents of brewed coffee and pastries, but all I could smell was the sudden dread settling over me like a dense fog. Peter's warning echoed in my mind while I tried to compose myself, wiping the remnants of what felt like a betrayal from my heart. I glanced at the woman now standing just a few feet away, her laughter still ringing in the air, seemingly untouched by the whispers that broke like waves against our fragile connection. Her eyes, bright with innocence, seemed to search for something in mine, a flicker of recognition maybe. I could see her smile falter for a brief second as my gaze faltered beneath the weight of those judgment-laden stares. A surge of protectiveness washed over me, mingling with uncertainty. I wanted to shout at the townsfolk, to carve out a space for her in a narrative that should never have included their toxic distrust, but I remained paralyzed. "Hey," she called, stepping towards me as the warmth of her voice wrapped around me, a lifeline to hold on to. "You look lost in thought." The words stuck in my throat, tangled with fear and hope. Instead, I opted to shift the narrative, my tone lighter than I felt. "It's a heavy rain outside. Doesn't feel right to be thinking too deep, does it?" She chuckled softly, the sound reverberating through the tension. "Right? Life is too short to drown in the puddles it creates. We should embrace the chaos," she said, her eyes sparkling with unfiltered joy. For a moment, the clouds in my heart parted. I forgot about the whispers, the doubts and fears that eclipsed my thoughts only moments ago. I took a small step closer, reaching for the tiny ember of hope ignited by her presence. "You seem to know how to do that," I replied, trying to read the shadows behind her smile. Her laughter faded slightly, An unguarded glance flickered to the side where the townspeople sat, their disdainful gazes piercing through the moment. Just as swiftly she cast it away, returning her focus solely on me. It's not always easy, she admitted, her smile tinged with a trace of vulnerability. But I try. And in that shared moment, something unspoken hung in the air between us. The connection pulsing like a beacon. Yet lurking beneath was an undercurrent of unease, threatening to drown me in uncertainty. I wanted to know her, to unearth the story written in her eyes, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the closer I got, the darker the truth might reveal itself. Suddenly, the bell above the cafe door jingled again, and I turned to see a figure stepping inside, soaked from the rain. It was Clara, my childhood friend who knew my past events as intimately as my reflection did. She was here, and with her came a cascade of memories and unresolved tensions spilling between us. But that was not all. I saw the expression on her face shift to one of concern as she recognized the woman beside me, her brows knitting together in a tight frown. "Why are you talking to her?" Clara demanded, her voice rising above the murmurs around us. It sliced through the moment, turning it cold and sharp. "You don't know what you're getting into. You can't trust her. Not with everything that knows about this town, not after what happened last time." The entire cafe seemed to freeze, all eyes shifting from Clara to me. My heart sank. Clara's words were heavy, painted with fear, and they crashed down around me like broken glass. There it was, the sharp reminder of my past and the treacherous shadows lingering just beyond reach. The inner turmoil erupted with each glance exchanged, fracturing the fleeting hope that had begun to form between us. I steeled myself, facing Clara. "What do you mean, what happened last time?" I asked, determination lacing my voice, craving clarity amidst the chaos. The glimmer of understanding on the woman's face dimmed as she stepped back. The distance felt insurmountable, like climbing a mountain of uncertainty. As Clara began to explain, her words were scattered fragments of history, tales of betrayal and anger, a whisper from the past that reached out to grip my heart. But before I could process it all, before any revelation emerged, the woman took a step back, her expression a blend of recognition and sadness. "I need to go," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, the warmth fading before I could reach for it. And in that instant my world teetered on the brink of a spiraling descent. As she turned away, I felt like time had fractured, leaving only the haunting question lingering in the air. Had I unknowingly become part of a story I never wanted to touch? Was love truly worth the chaos when it all might just shatter at my feet? As I stood there, caught in turmoil, the realization hit me like a tidal wave. The storm was far from over. Secrets and truths intertwined, and I knew that in my pursuit of her light, I might just be chasing shadows. With the bell still ringing in my ears, I stood frozen as Clara's words sunk in like lead. The laughter of the cafe patrons, once warm and comforting, now felt like mockery. I caught a glimpse of the woman slipping out the door, her silhouette framed against the dismal rain. There was an urgency in her step that ignited a surge of desperation within me, but fear held me back. "Why?" I finally managed, turning to Clara, needing answers and clarity she seemed reluctant to provide. "What happened last time? Who is she, Clara?" My voice trembled with an urgency I couldn't fully grasp. I wanted to chase the woman, but another part of me, a larger part steeped in history, feared what I might uncover. Clara's expression hardened as she crossed her arms, a battle of emotions breaching her facade. She's trouble, a reminder of everything we tried to bury. "You don't know her history." The last words dripped with a weight that felt familiar and heavy. "What do you mean we?" I countered sharply, raising my voice unintentionally. "I thought we moved past all of that. I thought we had a fresh slate." "But we do," Clara exclaimed, her voice dropping an octave, desperate to regain her calm. "You don't need to drag up old ghosts. You know what this town is like. It thrives on the remnants of the past. It devours people who dare to find their light." My heart raced at the thought. Wasn't that exactly what I was trying to do? To find light in the chaos, to grasp hope? But with Clara tangled in my past and this woman summoning feelings I hadn't faced in years, I felt caught in a web, suffocating slowly. "Isn't that what we all want?" I took a step closer, a plea buried in my words. "To be free of the past?" "I thought you were different," Clara softened, her gaze faltering. "But this town isn't forgiving." That last comment struck a nerve. I turned to where the woman had just vanished, the door creaking ominously after her. Maybe I can choose to be different, I said softly, almost to myself. A moment of silence enveloped us, thick with tension, until Clara's sigh broke it. Fine. Just remember that if you get hurt, I won't be there to pick up the pieces again. Her words were more than caution. They were a warning soaked in memories neither of us wished to revisit. With Clara fuming in the background, I bolted toward the cafe door, each step thunderous against the linoleum floor. The rain pummeled down outside, an erratic symphony that blended with the chaos inside. The familiar streets were washed gray, but I pushed forward, searching for any sign of her. As I stepped into the torrential downpour, I felt an electric jolt of fear and anticipation surge through me. She had been a fleeting spark, illuminating the world around me for just a moment. What would it take to bridge the distance? I tore around the corner, desperation driving my legs as I scanned the pavement slick with rain. And then there she was, huddled beneath an awning trying to shield herself from the storm. It felt like fate pulling at the strings of my heart. Wait! I called out, my voice almost lost in the rain. She turned, her expression haunted, as if the echoes of Clara's warnings were tangible raindrops falling all around us. I need to go, she whispered again, her voice barely breaking through the pounding rain. Please, I implored, taking careful steps toward her, the world blurring around us. Don't leave like this. But I hesitated, unsure of how to form the words swirling in my heart. I want to know you. A flicker of something crossed her face. Surprise? Or fear? You don't know what you're asking, she said, shaking her head slowly, the flickering street lamps casting soft, trembling shadows on her face. Try me. I took another step closer, the rain soaking through my clothes, a tangible reminder of the flooding emotions cascading within me. If there's a darkness in your past, then let me be the one to stand beside you in the light. The silence stretched painfully as she searched my eyes. Was she weighing the sincere desire I had? Or was it the weight of her own reality that held her back? Not that simple, she finally said, her voice trembling just as I opened my mouth to respond. A loud crash echoed nearby, a flash of lightning illuminating the darkening skies. I instinctively shielded my eyes and turned back toward her. But just at that moment, something caught her gaze and she froze, eyes wide with a mix of recognition and terror. There's no time, she shouted, her voice breaking with urgency. You need to leave. Now. But before I could process her words, a sleek black car screeched to a halt nearby, splashes of water erupting around it. The driver's side door opened, and a figure stepped out, drenched but determined. I couldn't see the face, but the way they moved sent a shiver racing down my spine. Run! She screamed just as the figure took a few steps toward us. I looked from her to the approaching figure, confusion clashing with fear. In that moment, the fragile thread binding us threatened to snap, and I could only wonder if I was chasing shadows or stepping into a chaos I could never escape. The rain intensified, blurring the edges of reality, and as the chaos unfolded before me, I felt the weight of choice pressing down like the storm above. What is happening? I stammered, my heart racing as adrenaline coursed through my veins. The woman's eyes darted from me to the approaching figure, her expression morphing from panic into something more profound, nearly pleading. You don't understand. This isn't just about us, she said urgently. Run before it's too late. Confusion gripped me. Wait. Who is that? What do you mean us? The wind whipped my words into the air, drowning them out amidst the torrential downpour. The figure took another step closer, and instinctively, I took a step back, the reality of the situation dawning on me like a cold slap. Suddenly, the woman's hand closed around my wrist, her grip strong and fierce. Please. Trust me, she pleaded, her voice breaking. Something in her gaze made me hesitate. It was a mixture of desperation, fear, and an invitation to understand. In that moment, she was no longer just a stranger, there was a shared connection, a thread tugging us together in the chaos. Why should I? I shot back, resisting the urge to lean into her warmth. What's going on? Because if you don't, everything you thought you knew could be swept away, she said hastily, her breath coming in quick bursts. I made choices that are catching up with me, and now they could catch up to you too. The figure was almost upon us now, dark shadows obscuring their features, but I could sense a danger lurking beneath the surface. The urgency of the moment was suffocating. I felt the air crackle between us, electric and alive with every unsaid word, every unexamined feeling. "Come with me," she urged, her voice breaking as the figure drew nearer. They won't stop until they until they kept me quiet. Confusion knotted my heart as panic set in. The need to protect myself warred with the instinct to not abandon her. "Why would I follow you? You're just a stranger," I shouted back, soon regretting the sting in my voice as her face fell. "Because I'm not just a stranger," she whispered, the weight of her words heavier than the rain pounding around us. "And because at this moment, you're the only person who can help me. That makes you so much more than a stranger." The looming figure stepped into the light, revealing a perfectly chiseled face marred by an intensity of purpose I couldn't avoid. With each passing second, fear coiled tightly in my chest, binding my will to my slowly rising panic. "Are you sure about this?" I asked her, searching her eyes for reassurance. The reflection of my uncertainty mirrored back at me. "Please," she said, and for a fleeting moment I saw a flicker of vulnerability, raw and real. "I can't do this alone, and neither can you. Trust me, even just this once. You'll understand if you let me explain." A trap laid bare, yet I couldn't bring myself to flee. There was too much at stake: her safety, the undeniable pull between us, my own capacity for love and vulnerability. The moment felt surreal. A clash of heartbeats and chaos, storm and secrets intertwined in the fragile embrace of fate. "Okay," I exclaimed, taking her hand, feeling the warmth of her pulse through the water-soaked fabric. "But where do we go?" Without answering, she pulled me toward the side street, her grip firm, not allowing me time to second-guess my decision. We dashed down the narrow alleyway, the sound of rushing rain creating a shield around us, as if we were in our own world, safe and sound, at least for the moment. As we turned the corner, the figure shouted something from behind, but the words were lost amidst the deluge. The pounding rain felt like drums urging us forward, glimmering with an inkling of hope. Yet deep down a dark foreshadowing gnawed at me. What exactly had I stepped into? "Why don't you tell me who I'm running from?" I asked breathlessly, attempting to gather the shreds of my scattered thoughts. She hesitated, and in that brief moment, I felt the atmosphere shift. "You really need to know?" she replied, her voice tremulous yet resolute. "They're not just people. They're powerful, and they don't like when things don't go their way." The starkness of her words sent chills down my spine. A part of me wanted to pull away, to shake off the surreal fear and protect the semblance of normalcy that clung to my life. But another part, the part that had loved and lost, that craved connection, held on even tighter. "What did you do?" A flash of something, that elusive spark in her eyes, was gone, replaced with a shadow of dread. Something that I thought was worth it until I realized I was wrong. Just as I thought I could bear no more, a clamor echoed behind us, the sound of footsteps, urgent and closing in fast. "Run!" I shouted. "What's the plan?" A wild look crossed her face as she pulled me into another side street. "There's a place I know, an old storage facility. We can hide there, at least for a bit. You need to trust me." I had no choice. Trust was the only currency left between us. And so we ran into the unknown, where past mistakes loomed in shadows, and hope flickered like the last light before the dark consumes everything. But as we reached the entrance of the alley, I felt that same electric jolt, a warning coursing through my veins. Just then my phone buzzed in my pocket. With a glance shared between us, she nodded, urging me to check it. Fumbling, I pulled it out, my heart dropping into my stomach as I read the message. "I know where you are. You can't escape." I glanced at her, her eyes wide with panic mirrored my own. "What does this mean?" Her answer was lost in the chaos of the world around us as the shadows closed in. And in that crucial moment, I realized the depths of our tangled fates, tangled histories, and the daunting truth that real love often demands facing darkness head-on. The rain began to relent, its furious rhythms replaced by a chilling stillness, a deceptive calm that heightened my unease. Briefly pausing, even as adrenaline surged through my veins, I hammered my heart with a frantic rhythm, trying to process the weight of the message on my screen. "I know where you are. You can't escape." Fear stung my throat, constricting my breath. My wide eyes searched the faded brick walls around us, the shadows no longer welcoming but ominous, as if they conspired against us. "Tell me that's not what I think it is," I murmured, hoping to shred the tension with the chain of disbelief binding my heart. She leaned closer, her breath mingling with the air, a mix of sweet desperation and grim acknowledgement. It's them. They're closer than we thought, she whispered, her voice bare like the vulnerable branches trembling against the dying wind. We need to move. Now. Nodding, I felt the remnants of our tentative connection. An understanding formed, a bond forged in this swirl of peril. I had leaped from the safe shores of my ordinary life into an ocean of certainties tossed around in treacherous waves. Somewhere in that deeply intertwined fate, there lay the tender remnants of hope. We fled deeper into the labyrinth of alleyways, each turn stretched taut with anticipation. My heart pounded, echoing in unison with her quickened steps as we ducked behind a nearby dumpster, our shadows mingling in the soft glow of a flickering streetlight. I never even caught your name, I choked out, a threadbare attempt to humanize the chaos. Clara, she replied, her eyes piercing into mine, unveiling an essence far beyond simple words. And you? Aiden, I breathed, finally savoring that familiarity amidst our shared plight. Aiden, she whispered, holding my gaze as if anchoring her very being to the reality of standing here. I need you to know this isn't just about me. These people, they can hurt others to get what they want. They already have. Instant dread loomed like a dark cloud above us. I shivered at her implications, each word like a splash of cold water, awakening fears I hadn't even realized I possessed. A fear for Clara? Yes, but soon realized it extended into the unknown territories of my own vulnerabilities. We'll find a way. We can't let them win. The resolve took shape in my voice, igniting something deep within her. She offered a small, trembling smile, yet the shadows still haunted her bright eyes. If we get through this, you'll have to promise to stay. I know it's a lot to ask when it feels like we're running into darkness, but my past, what I've done, it makes the idea of a new beginning feel impossible. A sense of heaviness crept between us, her admission threading through the storm within. I barely know you, I said softly, seeking to break the tension, to pull her from the brink. But trust me, if there's even a chance, I want that too. Before she could react, the distant sound of footsteps reached my ears again. A reminder that time was no longer our ally. We have to go, I urged, pulling her gently. Clara looked hesitant, pain painting her features. I just want you to be sure what you're getting into. Seizing the moment, I gripped her hand tightly, planting my feeling of raw sincerity into that simple connection. I'm sure, I stated, drawing courage from the depths of my heart. I won't abandon you, no matter what lies ahead. And so we took off again, every hurried step a race against the past that nipped at our heels. We twisted through the alleys, my mind racing. I fought to absorb the information that barreled through my thoughts. Mystery, danger, choices threading through choices. I needed to understand what so deeply haunted her. After what felt like timeless minutes, Clara led us toward an unassuming door, rusted with the marks of age. She paused to take a breath, casting a look back over her shoulder as if the shadows were drawing in once more. Inside, this should give us a minute to think, she said, glancing at me while trembling hands gripped the doorknob. The moment the door creaked open, we stumbled into dim light, a storage facility filled with dusty remnants of forgotten lives. The air was stale, but it felt like a sanctuary, a temporary refuge from the world outside. As the door clicked shut behind us, we were plunged into near silence, save for our quiet breaths echoing in the solitude. Clara leaned against a wall, the staccato of her heartbeat marking time as I can't help but trace the lines of worry etched across her face. What comes next? I asked, still panting as I ran a hand through my hair, trying to calm my racing heart. What do I need to know? She hesitated, her gaze drifting away as if piecing together fragmented memories. They want to silence me because I saw something I shouldn't have. Something that could unravel their entire operation. A chill swept through me, each word a dagger twisting into the growing fear of seeing Clara trapped not just in this cycle of danger, but in her history, one that was hidden in shadows, as elusive as the rain outside. What happens now? Before Clara could answer, the muffled sound of voices pierced the stillness, a cacophony of footsteps and harsh laughter growing closer. Panic gripped me, an icy fist around my heart. Aiden, she breathed, rising from her stupor. We have to hide. But where? The room around us was filled with crates and boxes, shadows flickering uneasily. No time. I grabbed Clara's hand. We rushed behind a stack of dusty containers, our mere existence reduced to the quiet sound of hearts racing. What if they find us? I asked, feeling the weight of her past hang thick between us. I can't let them, she whispered resolutely. No matter what it costs. Yet even as the footsteps grew louder, a sliver of warmth threaded through our connection. A note of something deeper bearing witness in that sterile gloom. Something rose from the fragments we dusted off despite the weight bearing down on us. But in that moment, the blaring of my phone cut through the air again, louder and insistent. Heart racing, I glanced at the screen. Another message flashed, an unfamiliar number. I know you're there. There's no hiding now. Clara turned to me, our fears intertwined. And just as despair threatened to engulf us, her resolve strengthened once more, glowing like a flickering ember. Our choices had led us to this moment, yet together we might find a way forward through this swathe of shadows, clinging tightly as uncertainty loomed on the horizon. And yet, somewhere in that darkness, a truth remained just beyond reach, a realization woven through the chaos yet to be unveiled. My heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead, the looming threats against our fragile alliance, and the possibility that our love, as fledgling as it was, could be the very key to surviving the darkness ahead. Clara's eyes widened in terror as the message illuminated my face, reflecting the digital imprint of dread, etched into her features. The words hung in the air like a foreboding storm cloud, heavy with implications. Who is it? She whispered, her grip tightening around my hand. I don't know, I replied, my voice barely above a murmur. But we can't stay here. The echoes of approaching footsteps were now mixed with sharp, anxious laughter, a jarring reminder that the sanctuary we had stumbled into was merely an illusion. With one swift motion and a racing heart, I thrust my phone into my pocket and pulled Clara deeper behind the wall of crates, every breath charged with urgency. In the cramped darkness we huddled close, her warmth radiating against the cold reality of our existence. Amidst the pulsing fear, an unexpected spark ignited in my chest, a flicker of determination growing robust. I looked at Clara, the contours of her face softened by the shadows, and I couldn't help but feel a tether of longing in that narrow space where panic and intimacy intertwined. Aiden, she breathed, her eyes softening as they locked onto mine. I'm not sure how much longer we can keep running. I don't want to drag you down with me. The weight of her words pressed heavily against my heart. You're not dragging me anywhere, I insisted, my voice firm even against the tempest swirling between us. I chose to be here with you. You matter, Clara. A fleeting smile graced her lips before it vanished, replaced by the specter of fear lurking in the corners of her memories. She squeezed my hand, grounding herself, and for a moment the world outside faded. Each heartbeat resonated within the sanctuary of shared resolve, pushing back against the tide of uncertainty. But moments of quiet were short-lived. The footsteps stopped, followed by muffled voices, layered with menace and arrogance. Keep searching. She can't have gone far, a gravelly voice barked, sending a fresh wave of dread coursing through me. Clara shivered against the sound, her body becoming rigid beside me. They have no idea just how far I'm willing to go to protect what's left of me, she uttered, vehemence crackling in her tone. Before I could respond, an object clattered nearby, a loose crate unsteady under its own weight, teetering precariously on its edge. A pair of boots appeared around the corner, and the urgency latched tightly to my throat. No, I hissed, pushing against her instinct to bolt. The door creaked ominously like a wailing ghost, threatening to betray our hiding place. You don't understand. They won't stop until they have me, Clara said, her eyes wide with desperation but filled with an unyielded fire that struck me speechless. They'll do anything. Then let us fight back, I whispered back, as much for her as for myself. Memories of my mundane life floated away, replaced by an intoxicating resolve. We'll find a way to stand together. Her breath hitched, and just a hint of hope flickered in her expression, a fragile candle shaken by darkness yet refusing to extinguish. But the hope didn't last long. The heavy footfalls intensified as voices approached, their disdain palpable even outside our fragile refuge. Without hesitation, I planted the idea in her mind. We need to distract them. How? She asked, glancing back toward the door as the voices drew nearer. A surge of audacious inspiration surged through me. If they think the noise is coming from another part of the building, it'll buy us time. I'll create a diversion. What? No. You can't, I pressed a finger against her lips. We both know it's a risk we have to take. We can't keep hiding. You're right. They can hurt the innocent. Your past means they won't stop looking for you. With that, I made the decision, a fierce determination burning in my veins. I took a deep breath, forcing myself into a calm focus despite the raging chaos around us. When I say go, you go that way, I pointed toward the far end of the storage unit. I'll keep them occupied. Her eyes searched mine, the fear palpable, yet mixed with a profound understanding. Promise me you'll be careful. You're all I have, she pleaded, her voice a gentle echo amidst the fear. I promise, I vowed, swallowing hard against the building tension as I prepared myself. We held each other's gaze, the silence enveloping us like a protective cloak. And then, as the footsteps encroached, I pushed past her and straightened up, stepping into the aisle not as a victim but as someone ready to confront the dark storm that chased us. Hey! Over here! I shouted, my voice cutting through the veil of tension with desperation-fueled abandon. The footsteps halted, surprise evident in the sudden stillness. Who is that? A skittering tone pierced the air, and my heart raced as multiple shadows broke from the echoing gloom, headed toward me instead of Clara. My chance at distraction was breaking. I had to act quickly, casting a glance back at Clara, the fear etched in her eyes now laced with encouragement. I turned fully, facing the approaching figures with burning resolve, when Clara suddenly shoved her way through behind me. In disbelief, I watched as she stepped forward, her face a mask of fierce conviction. No, you can't hold him, she shouted, a roar rising from a voice so much stronger than I had ever known. What the hell? The lead figure laughed, but there was no hint of amusement in his eyes, only cold menace. Just run, Aiden, she urged, her body tensed in front of mine, defying the shadows that sought to engulf us. But it was her desperate spirit that emboldened me, sparking a deeper understanding within me. Even in the creeping dark, we were not alone. Springing into action, I moved beside Clara, ready to face whatever would come. Together, I whispered fiercely, scraping off fear like a cloak. Then, amidst the chaos, a realization surged bright and stirring within. The shadows spun a web tighter around us, but our determination to break free bound us together in a way neither shadow nor past could ever sever. Yet even amidst that realization, as we both stared into the oncoming danger, a heavy truth lingered in the air. A truth that could change everything, if we lived to tell the tale. And that was the chilling uncertainty that awaited us, looming like a dark shroud as the confrontation began. How far we'd come and how far we still had to go. And just beyond reach, the tumult of voices continued to thunder, her past and my future, spiraling together into the unknown. The air crackled with tension, thick enough to nearly choke me. Clara stood resolute beside me. Our combined defiance seemed to forge an invisible shield against the impending chaos. Yet, with every second that passed, the weight of our reality pressed down harder. You're both making a big mistake, the lead figure said, stepping closer, a cocky smirk betraying his thinly veiled anger. The harsh fluorescent lights bathed his face in a sickly glow, casting deep shadows over the cruel twist of his lips. Is that so? Clara shot back, her voice steady but her knuckles white against her clenched fists. I couldn't help but admire her bravery, even in the face of certain danger. Let us see how brave you are when we start asking questions, he replied, his laugh a low rumble that sent a shiver racing down my spine. We stood firm, resolute in our newfound unity. But as the darkness loomed, doubt crept in like a thief, whispering warnings of our fragile hold on this moment. What if we were to fail? What if this was where our paths irrevocably diverged? Suddenly, an unexpected crash echoed from the far side of the warehouse, a noise too loud to be anything but intentional. All eyes shifted, confusion flickering through the aggressors as they strained to make sense of the distraction. Clara seized this moment. My pulse quickened as she took a step back, urging me silently with a nod. Now, she murmured, fire igniting in her eyes. Without breaking our grip, we turned as one, sprinting toward the shadowed corner of the building. I could hear the shouts of our pursuers escalate as they rallied, their anger simmering dangerously close to violence. Go, I urged her as we ducked behind a set of towering crates, breathing heavily, our frantic heartbeats sinking in exhilarating terror. The refuge was temporary. I knew that as surely as the darkness crept ever closer, we needed to find a way to escape, to gain ground between us and our pursuers. We can't keep running forever, Clara said, her voice trembling yet unwavering. They're relentless. Aiden, a sudden burst of noise behind us halted her words, halting my own as well. A figure loomed in the half-light, and instinctively I tensed, ready to shield her with my body. Clara. A familiar voice called. Breaking through the tension, a voice that sent shards of disbelief ricocheting through me. Footsteps echoed in the distance, softer yet purposeful. As the figure stepped into the dim light, I squinted, then gasped in shock. It was Alex, my childhood friend, the one person I had thought I'd never see again after everything had fallen apart in my life. His brows knitted with concern as he scanned the area, spotting Clara and me pressed against the crates. What is happening? Alex, what are you doing here? I asked, my voice a mixture of relief and confusion. I came looking for you, man. His eyes darted around as he took in the chaos. I heard rumors, thought I might find you here. Alex, you shouldn't have come, Clara warned, her fear tangible. They'll find you too. But just as those words left her lips, I caught a glimpse of movement, shadows gathering, encroaching with malicious intent. The distraction we managed to create was fading fast, dissolving into an urgent cry for action. No time for explanations. I yelled, my heart pounding. They're coming. We have to move now. We glanced at each other, the gravity of the situation binding us together in a shared resolve to survive. Alex nodded, an uncommon shadow of determination sweeping over him. Right. There's a side exit on the east wall I used to take when we played here as kids. We can try for that. With no time to waste, we took off running, Clara a few steps ahead of us, a beacon of courage lighting the path through the confusion and despair. But just as we rounded the corner toward the exit, our hearts racing in unison, we skidded to an abrupt halt. A group of figures blocked our way, their bodies aligning like a wall of imminent destruction, dark silhouettes illuminated by the fluorescent hum above. Going somewhere. The man from earlier stepped forward, a dangerous smirk on his lips that twisted my stomach into knots. The tiniest flicker of panic ignited in Clara's eyes, and instinctively, I stepped forward, positioning myself protectively in front of her. Back off! I yelled, desperation fueling my voice. But just as those words left my lips, Clara squeezed my arm, her voice barely a whisper, but filled with an urgency I couldn't ignore. Aiden, wait! And then the unexpected happened. One of the shadows stepped into the light, a woman with familiar features, circled by a haze of disbelief. My heart dropped as recognition paralyzed me. It was Sylvia, Clara's estranged sister, a specter from a past neither of us had expected to contend with. The unspoken tension thickened, turning palpable as I stood between my two worlds, caught in an emotional tempest. Clara's eyes betrayed an avalanche of feelings, confusion and fear swirled alongside a hint of something else that made my heart ache for her. I didn't know they were after you too, Clara. Sylvia's voice faltered, a mixture of concern and betrayal woven through her tone. You don't understand, Clara began, her voice trembling. But before she could finish, chaos erupted. The group behind us surged forward, and as shadows collided, the world spiraled into a maelstrom of fear and unanswered questions. Caught in the swell, I tightened my grip on Clara's hand and looked into her eyes, those eyes I had come to rely on during our fleeting moments of hope. My mind raced, the stranger beside us now more of a threat than ever, the past and present intertwining in a way that threatened to swallow us whole. And the weight of everything, our struggles, our fears, the truth we had yet to uncover, loomed larger than ever as I started to realize that survival was just the beginning. Run! I finally managed. But the word felt lame against the whirlwind of emotions swirling around us. Together. As we turned to flee, something deep and unsettling lodged itself at the back of my mind. If we could outrun our past, would it ever let us go? And as I glanced back, my breath caught in my throat as the realization struck me again. This was about more than just survival, it was about understanding not just who we were, but who we'd become in the moments that followed. And with that thought lingering heavy on my heart, I pushed forward into the unknown, the storm still raging behind us. The echoes of chaos faded into the distance as we sprinted down the narrow corridors of the warehouse, our feet pounding against the concrete floor like a heartbeat amplified by fear. The exit loomed ahead, but so did the shadows of uncertainty, our pasts intertwining dangerously as new challenges emerged in the wake of Sylvia's unexpected appearance. What the hell was she doing here? Clara breathed, her voice quivering as she squeezed my hand tighter. I could feel the tremors of her anxiety travel up through me, mingling with my own rising fear. I shot a glance over my shoulder, desperate for any sign of our pursuers. I don't know, but we have to focus on getting out first. We can deal with that later. As we neared the exit, a sudden crash rang out, rattling the very bones of the building. An ominous reminder that time was not on our side. I turned to Alex, who was keeping pace with us, his face etched with panic but determination. "Stay close." He nodded, his youthful bravado overshadowed by the moments burdening him with memories we had left behind. Those nostalgic days of play that once softened the edge of our little adventures felt shadowed now by a reality that clung to us like smoke. Just as I reached for the door handle, a voice hissed from behind us, laced with venom. "You really think you can escape?" It was the lead figure again, his tone as taunting as ever. We didn't have time for bravado. I threw the door wide open, pulling Clara and Alex forward just as figures surged into view, and the light fell upon the three of us, lost, vulnerable, yet stronger together. We stumbled into the cool night air, a jolt of reprieve washing over us, and for a single moment, I allowed myself to hope. But then I saw the parked truck nearby, our only option. Time was slipping through our fingers like sand, and there was no telling how far they had gotten behind us. "Get in," I urged, shoving Clara towards the passenger side, while I sprinted around to the driver's seat. As soon as I climbed in, adrenaline coursed wild in my veins, my heart racing faster than before. "Come on, Alex," I shouted, my voice a desperate lunge over the thumping heartbeat of our shared panic. But as I turned the key in the ignition, the engine sputtered a sound that simultaneously clawed at my hope and ignited fear. No, I breathed, my fingers gripping the steering wheel. "Please." The door opened, and through the corner of my eye, I saw Sylvia jump into the back seat of the truck. "What are you doing?" "Get out," Clara shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "I'm not leaving you," Sylvia shot back, her resolve unwavering. "Do you think they'll stop at just you two? You need me. I know things about them. About all of this." Before I could act, another crash echoed from the warehouse, and I shot a glance back at the entrance, dread curling in my stomach. We had no time to argue, they were coming. "Get down," I barked, shoving the truck into gear as I pressed the gas pedal to the floor, my instincts kicking in. The tires screeched as we plowed forward, barreling into the night. The wind whipped through the cracked windows, drowning out the shouts that faded behind us. But as we tore down the road, the reality of the road ahead loomed like twilight just before a storm. We were not safe. We had merely traded one danger for another, a precarious balance hanging over us. "Where do we even go?" Alex asked, his voice shaky yet edged with curiosity, as if the very question loomed above his head like a darkened cloud. "Anywhere but here," Clara replied, the fierce warmth igniting fire in my lungs. I caught a look at Sylvia through the rearview mirror, her face a jigsaw of fear and determination. She met my eyes where I thought I would find the walls of sibling betrayal. I instead found a glimmer of hope. "Trust me," she said, her voice low but filled with urgency. "I know a place we can go. A safe house. Do you even know if it's still safe?" Clara shot back, the worry spilling from her heart into the space between us. "Better than here," Sylvia asserted, and I couldn't help but be drawn into the intensity of her sincerity. With hesitation thickening the air around us, I nodded, trusting in the respite promised by her words. "All right, lead the way." As the dark stretch of forest lined the road, minutes sliding by like hours, a sense of unease settled heavily. The momentary thrill of escape was replaced by the gnawing realization that the cracks in our alliance were about to widen. "Why were you with them?" Clara demanded, turning her focus sharply to Sylvia. "What do you know?" The truck rattled as I navigated a rocky path, the branches on either side clawing at us like desperate fingers reaching for escape. I stole a glance at Clara, who was on the brink of bursting open with a storm of confusion and anger. "It's complicated," Sylvia responded, looking defeated. "It started long before I ever left town. I didn't want you involved, Clara. That's just it. I am involved whether you like it or not." Clara's voice trembled, and I could feel the heat of the friction building between them. Alex shifted uneasily in the seat, caught in a vice of sibling tension, while I wrestled with steering us clear of both the physical and emotional roadblocks that threatened to shatter what fragile unity we formed. Finally, with the trees thickening around us, we approached a narrow path that veered off the main road. "Here," Sylvia said, her urgency pulsing as she directed me to slow down. "It's just up here." Anxiety coursed through my veins, mingling with the growing urgency to understand the true depth of what we were facing. Just as I turned down the secluded drive, a sudden realization struck me like lightning. What if this safe house held more answers than I was prepared to confront? As I braked, the vehicle shuddered to a stop, and the reality of our situation pressed down around us like an all-consuming fog. There was no going back now. "We need to talk," I said, my voice barely above a whisper as I turned to look back at the three faces illuminated by the glow of the truck's dashboard. And with that, the shadows of our past bore down on us like thunderclouds, an impending storm ready to erupt, binding our fates even tighter, each of us standing on the precipice, waiting for the moment when all secrets would unravel. The air was thick as we stepped out of the truck, our breaths hanging in the night like unsaid words. The safe house loomed ahead, a rundown structure shrouded in shadows and uncertainty. The stillness of the forest enveloped us, and for a moment I hesitated, grappling with the reality of what lay beyond those doors. Clara, Alex, and Sylvia stood close, a series of intertwined fates staring down the looming storm of our past and present. "What now?" Alex asked, glancing from Sylvia to Clara and back to me, the tension palpable. As we reached the entrance, I felt the weight of each unspoken history pressing against me. Clara's eyes darted, filled with a mix of anger and unshed tears. "You need to tell us everything, Sylvia," she demanded. "Why did you end up with those people?" Sylvia swallowed hard, her gaze flitting to the ground as if searching for the words buried deep beneath the surface. "I was desperate," she finally admitted, her voice trembling. "When I left town, I fell into a world far darker than I expected. They were my only way out at first." The honesty in her voice sliced through the tension, revealing a glimpse of her vulnerability. "And then it became about survival. They offered me a way to forget, to be someone else. But that never stopped you from betraying us." Clara shot back, the anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "No, it was never about you. I thought I could handle it," Sylvia defended, the ache in her throat evident. "I didn't want you to be part of my mistakes." The tears betrayed her steely facade, rolling silently down her cheeks. "I didn't want you to know who I had become." A fragile silence fell between us, the weight of that admission heavier than any shadow around us. I felt the tension of the past pulling tighter around Clara and Sylvia, and instinctively I stepped closer to Clara, sensing her turmoil as if it were my own. "We can figure this out together," I whispered, my assurance clashing quietly against the confidence I also felt slipping. "Together? Do you really think we can fight whatever is out there when we can't even find common ground?" Clara challenged, her eyes fierce and yet hurt. "Maybe we start with honesty. If they are chasing you, they're chasing me too," I said, confidence igniting in me like fire. "Let us share our truths, each of us." The three of them exchanged looks that held galaxies between us. Sylvia's tears reflected deep sorrow, Clara's anger simmered beneath the surface, and Alex seemed caught between them, lost but resolved. "Fine," Sylvia relented. "But I need you to understand, I'm not the person you remember. I've made choices, difficult choices. We all have," I interjected softly. "Some we regret, some we don't know how to survive. But we can't keep carrying this alone." Just as her eyes met mine in silent acknowledgement, a shattering crack echoed through the still air, jerking us all back to reality. The sound was unmistakable. Our pursuers had found us, clawing through the dark, intent on catching what they had lost. "We need to move," I urged once more, instinctively aligning them together like comrades at war. We turned to enter the safe house, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the storm inside was only just gathering strength. Inside, the dim lighting illuminated layers of old furniture and remnants of lives lived long ago. The once thriving abode was now a mere shell, but in this moment, it felt like a sanctuary against the approaching chaos. "Find something to barricade the doors," I instructed, urgency lacing my tone. They scattered to work, and as I moved, I turned to face Sylvia, who was digging through a worn-out box. "You said you knew things. What do you know?" "It's complicated," she said through strained breaths, her gaze locking onto mine. "There's more at stake than just me now that they're after you too. They keep tabs on everyone who defies them, and I got too deep for my own good. They won't just come for Clara. They're going to come for all of us." The significance of her words wrapped around my heart, squeezing tightly. What else? I pressed, the words tumbling out of me. What are we dealing with? It's not just a game of power, she explained, desperation dripping from her voice. It's manipulation, using fear to control. They've hurt people, innocent ones. Every choice I made has consequences I never thought I'd have to face. Her hands trembled as she directed my gaze to the window where shadows danced ominously outside. I felt Clara's presence beside me, her voice steady and low. If we can understand their operations, maybe we can turn this around. But how? Alex chimed in, glancing nervously toward the window. They'll find us. Not if we're smart, I declared, the idea beginning to bloom in my mind. We can lay low, find a way to communicate with whoever's left who can help us, but we need to know the extent of Sylvia's knowledge. We must gather our resources, connect the dots. The echoes of footsteps drew closer, and I turned to face the door, adrenaline surging through my veins. Time's running out. Can we agree to whatever this is? To fight together? In that moment we shared somber expressions that spoke volumes more than words. Sibling anger, clashing fears, and the stirring of something greater and deeper took root, binding us together in an unexplainable alliance. They find you. They find me. They find all of us, Sylvia murmured, her words haunted yet filled with an unexpected clarity. There's no turning back now. And that was when the door shuddered under the weight of the approaching storm, and I realized the dark rain had finally come for us. I stepped forward, facing whatever awaited us with a heart that thundered against desperation and trust. Together, I repeated, conviction simmering under my resolve. It may be the only chance we have left. And as the shadows burst into the light behind us, I held on to the warmth of their presence, a flickering light of hope battling against an invertible darkness threatening to consume our past. In that moment we raced toward what could either be our doom or our release, but one truth crystallized amidst the chaos. Love demanded we face our fears head-on, no matter the outcome. With every conflicting heartbeat echoing in the silence that followed, I understood that it was in our shared vulnerability that we would discover true strength together. We would rise, ready to fight against the darkness. And finally, as the door smashed in, revealing silhouettes swathed in shadows and wickedness, I knew this in my heart, we had already triumphed. For courage was not about the absence of fear. It was about weathering the storm together in a world that felt more vast and uncertain than ever before.